Greetings, friends. Thank you for listening to The Hands of History, a production of the Society of Massage Archives, the only nonprofit dedicated to preserving the history of massage and bodywork. Because of people like you, the Society of Massage Archives exists. An archive is more than a collection of old papers and objects. It is a deliberate, organized effort to preserve history, the records, stories, and voices that would otherwise be discarded, damaged, or lost to time. Thanks to our Founders Club, 50 individuals who stepped up to help build the foundation for preserving the history of massage therapy, SOMA's work is now underway. That support has made it possible for us to begin safeguarding the stories, documents, and artifacts that have shaped our profession. But preservation isn't a one-time act. It's ongoing work. You're building something lasting. Whether it's digitizing collections, expanding access, or integrating historical knowledge into practice and education, SOMA is demonstrating how massage history matters. As a 501c3 nonprofit, we are working towards a dedicated, professionally maintained archive, one that protects our past and makes it accessible for future generations. If you believe that massage therapy's past deserves long-time care, access, and stewardship, we invite you to become a recurring contributor. Whether it's $20 a month or any amount that feels right to you, every gift, big or small, goes a long way in fulfilling our mission. Your monthly contribution helps sustain SOMA's operations year-round, so history stays alive and available for everyone in our community. History doesn't preserve itself. People do. Learn more about becoming a recurring supporter today at societyofmassagearchives.org. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect those of the Society of Massage Archives. These views and commentaries represent the recollections of both hosts and guests, and as such are subject to the occasional slight inaccuracies. The content here is for informational and educational purposes only. You should conduct your own historical research and determine the veracity of any statements made within.
Greetings and welcome to the Hands of History podcast, a production of the Society of Massage Archives, where we delve into the rich tapestry of massage therapy's past, explore its evolution, and share the stories that have shaped this vital practice. Today is Monday, December 15th, 2025. I am your host, Kirby Clark Ellis, and I'm joined today with Irene Diamond. Irene is a trusted advisor to organizations and practice owners. She's the creator of Team Care, Precise Private Practice, and the Diamond Method. Therapists and clinic owners turn to her for business training to maximize revenue, delight clients, enjoy their life, and eliminate burnout. A best-selling author of Design Your Dream Practice for Health and Wellness Clinics and Therapists, Irene was inducted into the Massage Therapy Hall of Fame in 2013 and is widely recognized as one of the most influential pioneers in the massage profession. She is a frequent guest expert for podcasts, live events, and industry publications, known for her controversial but clear, practical, and leading-edge approach to elevating both client care and therapist success. Welcome, Irene.
Thank you, Kirby. Great to be here.
This is exciting. I'm glad we've got this set up, and we're opening a new season with you, Irene. This is awesome.
It's the beginning of a new year, and we're talking about all the past, so it's perfect.
Yes, no better time for reflection, I think. Let's jump into your story, though. Tell me what first drew you into the world of massage therapy.
I know it's somewhat of a funny story because I got into massage by accident and never thought in my wildest dreams that it would be something that I would ever do as a career. So way back in the day, I was going through college and my degree was in rehab therapy. And as I was going through school, people said, well, what are you going to do? Be a PE teacher? Very sort of condescending, And at the time, The Love Boat on TV was the show. And it would be on these cruise ships going all over the world. And so my pat answer, just to quiet them down, was, no, actually, I'm going to be Julie on The Love Boat. And I had never been on a cruise before. And it was just a way to sort of, move them aside and do my thing. And fast forward, my last year of college, my roommate came home from a cruise with her mom and said, Irene, we have to get a job on a cruise ship. Okay. So we were just graduating. This is before the internet. We went to the library. We got the books of where the cruise ships were based out of. We wrote them letters. I had no idea what a position on a cruise ship was. So I applied for cruise director, sports director, hostess, like all the stuff. I was growing up in Hawaii at the time. There were a cruise ship line that sailed around the Hawaiian Islands called American Hawaii Cruises. So I had applied for cruises all over the world, but I also applied to American Hawaii Cruises. So Jane and I sent off all our resumes in the mail, with our letters of introduction and waited. About a week later, I get a call from American Hawaii Cruises and they say, would you come in for an interview? Well, the interview was on Wednesday. I was sailing on Saturday. And I said to Jane, great idea, bye. And I went on the ship and she eventually got on the ship as well as a deckhand. So we were applying to different positions. But I got on the ship as a sports and fitness director. taught aerobics, led the Deck Olympics, poured champagne at the captain's cocktail parties. It was all fabulous. However, this is back in the 80s.
Okay.
And so what happened was I realized here I was as fitness director, but I was teaching one exercise class and maybe shuffleboard and ping pong, and that was their fitness. And I realized there's a big need for fitness on cruise ships. Great way to travel, get to see lots of different places without unpacking and all, or, packing all that stuff. But the fitness was lacking. And I knew there were people who really did want to stay in shape and not just gamble and eat and drink all day. And so I did that for 2 years. And then I decided I wanted to start my own travel fitness cruise company.
Wow.
I was young. I'm like, okay. So at the time, the cruise lines were based out of Miami, Los Angeles, or San Francisco. Well, I didn't want to live in Miami, didn't want to live in Los Angeles, my sister and an old boyfriend who lived in San Francisco, and it's a great city. And I thought, okay, I'm going to move to San Francisco and start my travel company, Seafit Tours. And again, this is before the internet. How do you do it? Well, I moved here, I went to the library, and I figured it out. I did take a travel management course at Berkeley, and that old boyfriend suggested, because I needed to make money.
Mhm.
And so I got a job as a gymnastics coach. Well, it was hourly. It was waking up super early, all day in the gym, freezing cold, San Francisco, coming from Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, this is not for me. And so I would unofficially just, massage people, but I didn't know what I was doing. But I knew anatomy and physiology because that was part of my degree. And so he said, why don't you go to massage school? Learn what to do, because then you can work with one client in 1 hour and make the same amount of money that you're making in a full day. And it was a brilliant idea because then I could spend all my time with the travel, focusing on the travel business and not spend all my time working another job just to then have burning the midnight oil. So I went to school. I went and I looked around where can I get the quickest education so I could get into practice as soon as possible.
Sure.
San Francisco School of Massage. It was a 102-hour course.
Wow.
It was in my neighborhood. I registered. It had flexible hours. I could go in the evenings as well as during the day. Because I had my bachelor's degree in a lot of the coursework, I was able to sort of test out of a lot of those classes.
Sure.
So I think I actually went to class for maybe half of it. Because again, I just needed to know what to do with my hands.
Yeah.
I knew about all of the body and, the systems and everything. And my background was in fitness and movement. So it was the best choice because, again, I had my first clients. I was charging $50 for an hour. All I needed was 1 or 2 clients a day. And as my travel business grew, then I would be gone for these, weeks or 2-week trips a bunch of times a year. And my clients started to say, well, wait a minute, what about us? Hello, where are you going? So then I would bring in other therapists to see clients when I was gone. And so slowly, my practice was there, although my focus was on the travel business. So the practice was the means to the end, but it's never gone away.
Sure. Let me ask you a few follow-ups if you don't mind, Irene.
Yeah.
Can I ask you what drew you into the world of rehab therapy and fitness to begin with?
Well, so that, I think all of us get into it, right? Because of our own personal experience somehow, somewhere, either us or some family member or friend. Going back to Honolulu,
Mhm.
I used to take the bus from my family house down to Waikiki. If anybody's been there, you know what I'm talking about. Across the street from Kapiolani Park, it was just a beach where a bunch of college kids from the University of Hawaii would do acro sports. Well, I was in high school, but I would take the bus down and I was the only kid, and they let me do acrobatics with them. So again, I was a gymnast, but this is the throws and the balances and the partnering and what they do a lot now in cheerleading and different, acrobatics. And so I would go down and play on Sundays and then go back to school. Well, one summer I was down there and there was a competition that was going to happen again across the street. That was an international competition. So I was practicing with my partner. Usually we would do it on beach mats on the grass. Well, because this was a competition, we were on actual gymnastics mats. luckily, because we're doing our thing. I'm standing on this guy's shoulders. I was supposed to do a forward somersault into a position called the fish. He was going to catch me, and our timing was off. I basically did a head dive from the height of his shoulders straight down into the mats.
Thanks.
I put my arms out to, stop myself. My elbows buckled, and I landed on my head and just plopped over.
Ooh.
It was a compression fracture of C5 and 6. So I broke my neck from that fall.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. Luckily, the guy whose shoulders I was on was an anesthesiologist.
Okay.
His wife was there. She was a nurse. They suspected immediately neck injury. So they knew what to do. They didn't move me. Normally it'd be like, oh, let's sit you up and move you out of the way. No, they tested. They came around on my toes. Can you feel this? Can you feel this? Can you feel this? No, I was young, right? I was 15 years old. I really didn't know what just had happened. People ask me, did it hurt when I broke my neck? Well, the immediate impact hurt, but then I felt nothing except, when you bang your funny bone, the buzz, my whole body just buzz. This vibration of like a tuning fork because my spinal cord had just been impacted. So I didn't feel pain, but I couldn't move. I could talk, I could breathe, and I had a bikini top on. And this is my realization of what was going on is, everybody comes and gathers around you. You're like, what, are you okay? All I wanted to do is make sure my top was on, but I couldn't move my arms. And I laid there and they suspected a neck injury. Irene, I think we're going to just call your mom, let her know, what happened, that you took a little tumble. And what they did, again, emergency medicine is different now, but they scooped me up on a backboard, and the ambulance attendee literally held my head in traction the whole way so I wouldn't be bobbing around. They got me to the hospital, and I was there for 64 days in a halo traction, trying to create length in my spine to take the compression off of my spinal cord to see if that might be enough to get my movement back. So imagine when you're 15, when you're any age, but 15 especially, and you're used to bouncing around, and all of a sudden, boom, one day you're now flat on your back, unable to move, and told that you're going to be there for 2 months. That's how I got into this. I broke my neck. I had to learn how to rehab myself. Obviously, I'm moving now. People always say, well, if you broke your neck, why are you moving? Why aren't you paralyzed? And the reason, of course, many of your listeners know is because my spinal cord was compressed, but it wasn't severed. It wasn't cut. If it was cut, I probably would not have the movement I have now. Yeah, so I was there for 2 months, flat on my back. Had to eat, had to brush my teeth, spit into the thing. It's like what they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. My movement slowly came back. The crazy thing, though, that really got me into understanding the body, and first of all, the miracle it is, but also understanding the rehabilitation process, was basically every muscle in my back, my legs had atrophied. When they finally took my halo off and they allowed me to raise my hospital bed up, the whole world spun because of my orientation. So that started giving me awareness and proprioception and, what we call in my therapy method, positional awareness, where we are in space. And then I could not take my body off of the back of the bed. I couldn't sit up. I had no strength. And so recognizing, first of all, how quickly we lose it, but then also what the whole process is to have to regain that. That's what started it. My dad was a professor at the University of Hawaii in neuroanatomy. My mom was a child psychologist. So we had all the books and I started to go through it and try to figure out, what's going on? They basically gave me 1 day of physical therapy. I had a brace. I did end up with surgery. I'm sort of skipping lots of pieces, but after 2 months, the traction didn't work. The compression was off my spinal cord, so I started to have mobility and sensation, but the bones hadn't healed. So they ended up having to do a spinal fusion and a laminectomy to stabilize my neck. So I had the surgery. After 2 months, they let me go with brace. It's called a Philadelphia collar, where I had to, keep everything still for a while. And then I had to really just figure it out on my own because again, they basically said, you're young, you're strong, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Well, I was young and strong, but wasn't fine. And I started to have to regain my strength. I was in chronic pain. My neck was excruciating. I'd be sitting in class taking a test and I'd have to just stretch my neck. And the teachers would always think I was cheating and stuff, looking at other people's papers. No, and so I'd close my eyes, just so they'd know that I wasn't doing that. I just needed, because that forward flexion position was just not okay. And that gave me the start of what's going on with my body. How do I rehab? How can I help other people? I volunteered in the hospital. My mom was working at a rehabilitation center in the Pacific Ocean for people of all different types of disabilities. And I volunteered in the recreation department. And so I thought, okay, this is pretty cool because I was lucky to regain my movement. If I could help other people who are quadriplegics or paraplegics or somehow limited physically, that was sort of my path was already determined. And I often wonder, what I would do if I didn't break my neck. Like, where would I be right now? What would my career be? I kind of feel like it'd be graphic design, but who knows?
Right? Yeah, I don't want to jump too far ahead because I also noticed in some of the material that you shared some sort of performance background, I think if I'm recalling correctly. But I did have a couple of immediate afterthoughts from that story. And thank you, first of all, for sharing that with me, Irene. That's a very rich story. What I'm hearing is, and I can kind of relate, not in such a serious way, but I think there's no greater teacher in manual therapy than actual injury to the self. And I'm also hearing, and this is kind of a common thread that I'm noticing with luminaries in our profession, is a lot of self-study. Even from the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned going to the library, learning how to do things for yourself, but then also this drive of your parents having these clinical books around that you kind of jumped into. Can you
Mhm.
speak a little bit to that drive?
Well, I think the drive is to just know more. I mean, we have a program in my coaching, we call it Perpetual Learner. I've been in this for 35 years. I graduated massage school in 1988, and my college degree was 1985. I'm still learning. And things are changing, and science is changing. So anybody who thinks, oh yeah, I know it all, probably not. What I've observed as well is the people who get the furthest are never done. They're never satiated, and we want to know more. Why do we want to know more? Because we can be that much more impactful with our work with our client. We can understand ourselves better. And, whether now it's a podcast or a book or speaking with somebody, whether we're learning a clinical aspect or an experience, it's all rich material that makes us a better practitioner, I believe, and a more well-rounded human.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Let me ask you, I think this might be my last one for now, but you mentioned an old boyfriend and did perhaps open the pathway of the eyes to a possibility in massage. Was massage ever on your radar before that recommendation or that idea was?
Well, that's a good question. Yes, for two reasons. One, because again, I would always be rubbing my neck and it would kill me. My mom had a suggestion and said, why don't we get a massage therapist? And actually, fun fact, my parents knew Milton Traeger.
Okay.
So massage was in their world, although they weren't the type to get massages, on a regular basis. But my mom knew the value of touch. And so she had somebody, I don't even know who he was or how she found him, come to her house. And again, I was always sort of pressing and then moving my head because that would give me the best relief. And so when the massage therapist came, thank goodness they allowed me to give them some guidance, like not in an obnoxious way, but directing them on what to do because I could feel what I needed. They let me do that. The relief was almost instant. They were like, well, this is pretty cool, Irene, with you moving and me holding and doing these certain patterns. And they started to do it with their own clients. Came back and told me that they were getting really fast results. I was like, well, okay, great. I'm glad it's helping other people. And then, I lived my life and forgot about that. Then my best friend moved to Australia, came back, and in Australia had learned massage, foot massage.
Okay.
So one winter, I remember we were sitting by the fireplace in Honolulu. We don't light that very often. That's how I know. It was winter. She said, "Do you want me to give you a foot massage?" And here's my best friend since fifth grade. So at first I was like, well, this is kind of weird. Karen's rubbing my feet. But I was like, this is pretty cool. I like this. So I had those two impacts of massage, but then I forgot about it. Although somehow I didn't, because again, if somebody had a sore shoulder or knee or whatever, I would go and just do something. And they said it was helping. And so then when Bill said you should consider massage, I was like, well, that's a great idea because again, I have the background, the academic background. I just literally I went to the school and I said, I just need to know what to do with my hands so
Yeah.
I could hang out my shingle and say I'm a massage therapist.
So it sounds like kind of no hesitation once that recommendation, that idea was sparked.
Right.
Well, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad there were seeds planted along the way through all of this for you. Tell me, Irene, you said 35 years, so a long career. Not everyone makes it that far. Tell me, what sort of roles have you played in the profession? Therapist, educator, business owner?
Yes, yes, yes. Board of directors, yes. What else? Author,
Right.
pretty much everything. And now I got involved with the AMTA on a local level because I'm in California. California is an unlicensed state for massage therapists. So again, with my background in rehab, I thought at first, well, I should get my degree in physical therapy in addition to rehabilitation therapy because I thought I wanted to bill insurance. And so I was curious, why is California unlicensed? California's so progressive. They should agree that massage is worthwhile. Well, it turns out, of course, it's nothing to do with that. It's about the lobbying boards that physical therapists and chiropractic industry they're very strong. So every time we would try to get a license, they would fight us on that because why? Because then we take a little piece of their insurance pie. So I started to understand sort of the politics behind licensing and all of that. And I wanted to be involved. And so I became it with AMTA because California is such a big state. They have units in different cities and areas. So I was the president of the Golden Gate chapter, which is the San Francisco Bay Area chapter. And I did that for many years. And then I was also on the board of directors for the state, and I was the communications director. And so I was quite involved in helping therapists become more successful financially. And if they wanted to bill insurance, I figured out how to do that, which was we could do motor vehicle insurance and we could do work comp. We just couldn't do major medical. So yeah, I think what's really interesting is, I have worn lots of hats. I still wear lots of hats. And it gives me a better perspective when I'm coaching and consulting and strategizing with other practice owners. I can see it from a practitioner standpoint. I can see it from a business owner standpoint because I do have a brick and mortar business still with multiple practitioners. So, I've got a lot of experience and my eyeballs in lots of different angles of the profession. So it's really quite valuable for people.
For sure. How did you get involved with the AMTA California chapter? Were you introduced to that in your entry-level program or found it your way just seeking connections and networks?
Yeah, so the school that I went to, I think they suggested that organization for the insurance. And so that's how I found out about it. And then I was a perpetual learner, so I wanted to go to the workshops and things that they offered. I started teaching quite early for AMTA as far as movement. So the rehab method that I developed based on my degree, but also the manual therapy combined it's now called active modulation therapy. So I started teaching that for AMTA in California and then in a few other state chapters. I started to be more aware of the organization and would go to the conferences and stuff. And somebody suggested, hey, why don't you be on the board? Because then you could go to national and get your ticket paid. I was like, oh, let me think about that. It's really interesting because I was never involved in politics. So even just the process of being nominated and then being elected and, all of that, like that was all new for me, which was scary and very intimidating, but I figured it out. And so, yeah, I was on the board for many years. And it was great because it allowed me to meet a lot of people and also see how other areas in the country operate. I'm a big proponent of legalizing prostitution. I don't know if this is appropriate here,
Yeah,
but
well, yeah, we don't shy away from opinions.
because again, it's not going away. And why not? And then that way we can keep our professions separate.
Yeah. It makes sense to me on a personal note. Yeah. So yeah, I don't disagree with you, Irene, on that.
Mhm.
Don't ever be afraid to speak your truth here with us. We don't
Yeah.
mind that at all. Let's see. So the AMT, do you remember which national convention was your first one to attend?
I think I've only gone to two or three. Again, this is 30 years. So let's see. I remember there was one in Indianapolis
Okay.
because it was cold.
You remember the month.
And and then, gosh, Louisiana in New Orleans.
Okay.
There's one there. I think those there's probably one or two more that were in there.
Sure.
One in Florida, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Orlando, I think, I want to say.
All right. Let's see. So it sounds like kind of these different roles that you took on in the profession. It wasn't necessarily like one built on top of the other. Kind of sounds like you found a way to kind of blend them and they kind of overlap in some ways.
They were all overlapped, yeah.
Take me back to entry level program. You mentioned it was like a 102-hour program.
Yep.
Maybe we'll say this quietly. Maybe we didn't. We tested it out of some of it based on your previous knowledge and work that you'd done.
Mhm.
Any standout memories from that program, instructors, books, or tools that were used in your training?
Well, if anybody's been in any of my coaching programs or classes, you'll know I'm not really, I focus on very nuts and bolts, concrete ideas. And so what stood out at first was the teachers starting the classes, sitting there, taking a moment to breathe,
Mm.
tuning in, like all of that part. And I was like, what the heck am I doing here?
Oh,
I got a business to run. I got a company to start. Just tell me what to do with my hands. And I really was quite dismissive of all that because again, I didn't see the point. Like, what's the point? I can tune in. I'm here. I am present. I don't need to ground. So, that was my bias stepping into the world. And to this day, sometimes it gets a little much for me, but I also, of course, understand now where it comes from and what the intent is. And I do recognize, of course, everybody's different, and some people need that, and it's perfect. So that really stood out to me. I was like, oh, what did I get myself into? I also didn't like the getting naked in front of everybody piece. Although I grew up in Honolulu, everybody's naked. I mean, not naked, but you're out there, your bodies are there. So it's not like I was a prude at any by any means, but it just struck me as like, okay, this is legal. So that was kind of funny. One of the teachers that stood out, who I really liked, and Jim Burns, if you're listening to this, because I know you're still in the world. I don't know if Jim, if you know this little piece I'm going to share right now.
mm.
So, so we had to take a test, right, to pass the school, to pass the program, and it included a full body massage. Well, I was so busy, I had never practiced a full body massage. I did parts, legs and shoulders and whatever, but I never put it together. And so Jim was my teacher who I did the test on. And I finished, and he says, wow, Irene, it's really obvious you've been practicing a lot. To me, though, that was the biggest compliment because I hadn't, but it told me that I did okay and I could get the concept. Again, I was a dancer, I was a mover, I was a choreographer. I didn't need somebody to show me the routine. I just needed to understand the big picture of what is my goal,
Mhm.
what is the intent of this session. I could make that happen, and that's what I did, and so that was great. And so, yeah, it was a good program. It was downstairs in this little basement area. So, but it was great. It worked out perfectly for what I needed. And again, I'm okay with shorter programs if we want to talk about like length of education and stuff, because so many of us come from different backgrounds and so many of us have different goals. I think we need to separate it out: entry level, advanced, because
Sure.
100 hour program was fine.
Got you what you needed.
Got me what I needed, and it can get many, many people what they need. And therefore, those therapists can help thousands of clients.
I'm just curious, and this just came to me, Irene. When I think of California, sometimes I can't help but think about the Esalen Institute. And now that you're speaking about the propensity of nudity in the practice, I'm wondering if any of that Esalen, California kind of seeped into your education.
No. Well, it seeped in that that's not my thing,
Okay.
which is really funny. Like a friend, brought me up to Harbin Hot Springs.
Mhm.
I don't know if you know Harbin, but it's a classic landmark. It actually got burned in a fire, but they've rebuilt it all. I just heard from a client who went back and said it's, beautiful and redone, but it's up in the redwood forest. And again, there's a lot of just more, California vibe, right? Of all that. I've never been to Esalen, even though it's maybe 3-hour drive south from here. It doesn't attract me at all.
I'm wondering if like any of that philosophy was featured in like the program. Did any of your educators, instructors have any?
I mean, we learned Swedish Esalen. That was the name of it at the time.
All right. Let's see. Talk to me about starting the business right out of massage school. You were
Yeah.
doing travel as a component of it.
So CFit Tours was the name of my travel business, and that was fitness programs on cruise ships. My massage practice was out of my apartment. I'd see a couple clients there, and I had, an acquaintance who I met at a personal training conference, and he was opening a gym. And he said, "Hey, Irene, we want to offer massage." And so they were building out the gym, and I said, "Great, I'm happy to see clients there." And so they built a little massage room. The arrangement I'm going to suggest to any of you who say you can't find clients, connect with people who have the clients you want. So I thought, because I was an athlete, that I wanted to work with athletes. That was my thought. I thought I wanted to work with pro athletes because, then it'd be more celebrity status and that'd be kind of fun. Quickly I realized no, because you pick up one of their arms and it weighs 50 pounds. But that's another story. I did work with athletes and professional athletes of all sorts for a while, but I started working out of Scott's gym. My practice just started to grow so rapidly that I literally was turning people away very quickly. And the reason I know the reason is, first of all, I am skilled as a clinician. I'm skilled listening to what clients want and helping them get their needs met. I was also good at business. Now, I didn't have a background in business, but I figured it out. I knew I was running a business. And oftentimes I'll hear therapists wondering why their practice is not where they want it to be. And the reason is they're not running it as a business, they're running it as a hobby, or they're just, fingers crossed and hoping it's going to work. And so I was pretty diligent in the sense of, okay, that was great. When did you want to come back? Let's rebook you. And I was on it for the payments. I was very strict with my boundaries. And the reason was because I had to be. I didn't have the luxury of letting things just sort of flow because, again, this was the means to my end. So I was driven. After many years later, I had this one client who I'd seen forever, and she said to me, "Irene, once you got married and had kids and didn't have the travel business, you became so much more easygoing." I'm like, probably so. Probably so, because I didn't have that pressure. It was only me, and and I didn't have money, so I had to make money to fund the travel business. Yeah, so it's been a really fun journey, and and it still continues to be a fun journey.
I love the name CFit. That's really, I think that's
C
smart.
Fit Tours. It wasn't a good name. It was good because it was short, but here's the thing. This was all telephone. C Fit. S. F? No, S. E A Fit. F. No, C, like it's too hard to say over the phone. And then I'd get the mail with all the weird spelling. But it was a good short name. And, I learned so much. I got to travel the world. I got to meet really great people. I was not employed by the cruise lines then. I was not even a contractor. I was a travel agent. So I
Hmm.
basically booked the space and negotiated room rates and things like that. And then I would bring a massage therapist with me. I would bring lecturers on nutrition or whatever, some fitness related topic. And I'd bring these experts with me to provide content for the passengers that I had in my group. So I could, look at the Caribbean and go, I think we'll do this one in May. And I'd go do, Panama Canal. And there were a few times where I did work for other cruise lines. They hired me as their sports and fitness director. So it was wonderful. I really, oh, I love travel. I love travel. And I'm going to share something in a minute with you that is really exciting about travel. But the Seafit tours it was a great idea. This was when fitness programs were not on cruise ships. So it really was unique. And slowly cruise lines recognized that, that they needed to have more fitness programs. And so they started to develop out those. And now, of course, if you go on a cruise, there's like state of the art, everything you can imagine, full fitness, full spas, 24/7 access. It's phenomenal. So I was ahead of the time, and eventually my uniqueness dried up, and right about that same time I got married and started having kids, so I wasn't able to go travel.
Yeah, I love travel. And listening to this story, I'm wondering, and maybe this is an irrelevant question, Irene, but I've heard this before. Therapists, when they're in their entry level, they're like, well, maybe I'll work for a cruise or something like that. Uh,
Mm.
it's kind of in their heads, or even long-term practitioners. Um,
Mhm.
I'm wondering, do you think that, and it sounds like you'd agree with me that this was a successful venture for you. Do you think that same kind of venture could be successful for others today?
To work on cruise ships as a massage therapist?
Sure.
Well, it's different now. So again, I was hired by the cruise line as a fitness director. There was a massage therapist there, actually. That's another thing. I would go and I would go to this massage therapist in between the early cocktail party and the late cocktail party on Sunday nights because again, I needed my neck worked on. I was all dolled up, full makeup, full hair, the whole bit. This was the 80s, big
Yeah,
hair.
love
But I'd go to her and I'd say, this is before I was a trained therapist, and I'd say, okay, I need you to get into my neck, but don't mess up my hair. I'm like, really? Now I look back, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry I did that to you. Because, you got to get into the hair. But anyway, that was a piece of massage. So they had massage therapists and they had fitness directors. Well, now it's all, big agencies that staff the ships, the cruise lines. It's definitely got its advantages. You get to see places, you get to meet tremendous people. It's time condensed when you're on a ship. What would normally take a relationship to develop, whether it's a friend relationship or a romantic relationship, which would normally take, a couple weeks or a month, happens in like a day because you see them all the time and you're in the same environment. And so I have some of my best friends today are from way back then. And so for the right job on the right ship for the right type of person, it's amazing. It's confining. You're under somebody's, direction, and you may be in Hong Kong, but you can't go out because you got to provide the services. So it's not all fun. For me, it was all fun. I mean, my position on the ship was amazing because when the people were out in port, I could be out in port because nobody was taking classes. Again, because it was one class a day or two classes a day, only when the passengers came back. And so I really was able to enjoy the ports. And I also had my own cabin in a passenger cabin, which was great. I didn't have to share a room and I wasn't in the middle of the ship where a lot of those cabins are. So it's not for everybody. For the right person, though, it really can be great and you can make a ton of money.
All right, awesome. Thanks for sharing that insight.
Yeah.
So it sounds like eventually that chapter of your practice closed. Talk to me about getting back to massage. Let's say massage therapy on land, maybe is a way to describe that.
Yeah. So I was working out of Scott's gym and I was seeing clients there. And it was great because they did the laundry. I decorated the room with bare bones, literally milk crates and a piece of plywood with a sheet taped to cover or thumbtack to cover everything over. It worked. His gym, their motto was no fluff, just fitness. So it tied in perfect. And it really taught me how to work with clients back to back. In San Francisco, I had a car, but I also had a little scooter.
Mhm.
So I'd be in my apartment doing my travel stuff, they'd call and go, "Hey, you've got an appointment. I just booked you at 3." I'd be like, "Okay." I'd put my helmet on, hop on my scooter, zip down there, work with a client, put my helmet on, zip back. Like I was all over the city. I'd teach an aerobics class. I'd come back. I'd do my travel stuff. I'd go do another client. I was like all over the place, packing everything in. In my calendar, my paper calendar, it was color coded. Blue was for cruise ship stuff, yellow was for client stuff, and I think it was orange was for fitness stuff. So I wouldn't be able to know where I was going and what I was doing. And so that practice, though, at the fitness facility really was what was supporting my life. I was charging average. I wasn't charging a lot, but I recognized that people really appreciated my work. So I'd go up every now and then. And then they closed the gym after 3 years. So then I had to find a new location. So a friend who was a chiropractor had a friend who was a chiropractor who had space in a different part of the city. And so I ended up renting from him one treatment room, which was also my office. I had a little desk that folded down with a computer. And then when I had a client, I'd fold it and put all that stuff away, and voila, it was a therapy room. And then it also included an exercise room where I had equipment and mirrors and a treadmill and things like that. Because again, my therapy was always movement based, not just passive massage. So I worked at the chiropractor, not for him. I rented his space. I rented his receptionist. I paid her to answer my phones, and literally she had two phones there, doctor's office, Irene Diamond's office. So, but I knew the importance again of running this dang thing as a business.
Wow.
And I knew I wasn't going to be there all the time. So I trained Tara, we're still friends, on how to answer my phones, how to sell my services, how to talk about my services, all of that. And so that practice, I lost a lot of clients because San Francisco's not that big, but it's big enough that people are like, oh, it's kind of far. And so I did lose clients, and then I had to, develop new clients. I only received one. I thought I'd receive a whole bunch of referrals from the Cairo. I think I received one, maybe two over the 3 years I was there. Not because he didn't like my work, but I think he was hesitant because, as you know, and most of the people listening know, a lot of clients, a lot of patients prefer hands-on therapy, massage and stuff instead of chiropractic because they get better results. So I think he knew that if they came to me, they'd never go back to him. That being said, again, like I said, I would leave and then I would hire or bring in some other therapists to see my clients. And then I really realized I could grow this business and it needed to be bigger than just supporting the travel business. And so I started looking for another space. And I knew I wanted to stay in that area. I looked all over at the time for a facility that would work for a few treatment rooms. But I also wanted to give presentations because I knew speaking to people was one of the best ways to grow a practice, public speaking, doing workshops. And so I needed a space that had space for that, even if it was 10 people. And so I eventually found a location literally a block away. It was an old Victorian Edwardian house. I'm still there to this day. So in March, it'll be 27 years in that same location.
Really?
And that was scary as heck to make that decision, but it worked out well.
Good. Awesome, in fact.
I can share why it was so scary
Yeah, please. Yeah,
for
of
people
course.
who might be wondering, should they get their own location? I was paying, I don't remember my rents back then at the chiropractor, but it wasn't that much. And I knew I could easily afford it. But here I was now with this new location, and the landlord wanted me to sign a 5-year lease. So that's scary in itself because who knew in 5 years what the heck I'd be doing? I didn't know if I even was going to be able to make it in this location,
Right.
in this big space. So my rent was going to, quadruple. I was going to be responsible for all of this overhead for 5 years. A friend of mine was a financial accountant. I asked him, I'm like, Steve, help me figure this out. Like, how do we decide if this is the right thing? So, best case scenario and how many clients and how many hours and all this kind of stuff versus expenses. And he's like, Irene, I don't think you should do it. Another friend of mine was a podiatrist, had his own practice. Alan, help me figure this out. Went over the numbers. And he had been in practice for many years in the East Bay. He goes, Irene, I don't think you should do it. And I remember his words. He said, it's an albatross on your back.
Mm, scary.
Yeah. So two people who I trusted, who had nothing to gain, wanted to keep me safe, advised me not to do it. But I'm stubborn. And I'm like, yeah, but I feel like this can, and my mom, child psychologist, always had this phrase, and it's so true. What's the worst that can happen? So in the back of my head, I kept thinking, what's the worst that can happen? Well, I'll be embarrassed because it failed. I'll lose money. I can always make more money. Like really, I'm not going to die. What's the worst? I'll be embarrassed and I'll lose a lot of money, and I'll be on the hook for 5 freaking years. And so I played with the numbers, and worst case scenario, I could still scrape by. And so I thought, let's do it. And boom. And again, this was the first wellness center in San Francisco. Nobody had even heard of the word wellness. So I went to a conference for an IDEA conference, which is International Dance Exercise Association. And they asked me on the application what I wanted on my name tag, on my badge for my business name. And this is right when I was thinking about this wellness center. So I said Diamond Wellness Center. And when I saw it on my name tag in print, I was like, that's cool. Nobody knew that word though.
Yeah.
So it left people confused. Everybody knew the word massage.
Sure.
So then on my big sign, I had Diamond Massage and Wellness, because then at least people could get, oh, okay, I think I understand. And of course, now everything's a wellness center, and wellness is very known. And our name now is Diamond Pain Relief and Wellness. And the reason, and again, if anybody's thinking about business names, wellness is a state of being, massage is a modality. So I realized, why do I have a modality and a state of being together? That didn't even really make sense. So now I have pain relief, which is a state of being, and wellness. And so, from a grammatical standpoint, it makes a lot more sense. And also, we don't just do massage. We do a lot of different things. So I didn't want to limit myself.
Sure. Thank you for breaking that down for me, Irene. I love people whose minds work like that. I think that's awesome. And so let me make sure, is this Diamond Pain Relief and Wellness Center that started in 95?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me ask you this. Any quick compare contrasts or best lessons you learned from each of those settings, the gym versus the Cairo versus your own space?
Gotcha. Well, so in all of those environments, I was not an employee. I've never been an employee for massage. And now, as a consultant and strategist for other practitioners, I think really the compare and contrast, one of the most important things for somebody who's deciding what environment they want to be in is they need to understand their own personality. Do they want to be an employee, or do they want to be their own boss? And I need to be clear, people who are contractors are their own boss. Too often in this industry, they think they're working for the other business. And they are, but they are their own business, and they get to negotiate, they get to decide together. They need to make sure things fit for both parties. So it was just very clear. I'm an independent. I like to be lone wolf. I like to do things, I make the decisions, and I like people supporting me, and I like to support others. I don't want to be told what to do. So in all these scenarios, it worked out perfectly. What I really appreciate when I was working at the gym and then at the chiropractor, again, the gym, I ended up receiving clients from the gym. The chiropractor, no clients. So the big loud message is go where those people are that you want to attract as clients. And I've learned this even in my coaching. This is a perfect example. People listening to this, you, Kirby, have the people, right? So even me being a guest on your podcast puts me in front of your audience, which can obviously help me attract my dream clients. And so as a therapist, we need to do the same thing. Why struggle and reinvent the wheel and try to find the people when other people have the people? So it really just reinforced that. Go to the gyms, go to the chiros, go to the other healthcare providers, go to the facilities that if you want to work with runners, I would give lectures at running stores, because those are the people who I wanted to work with. I went to Sears racetrack. It's not called Sears now anymore. I don't forget what it's called, but I would work and educate the motorcycle racers because they're hunched over these bikes and they're, constantly in this tight position. And so I would went there because those are the people thought I wanted to work with. So I would get myself in front of them. And then having an office in my home, originally my apartment, versus the gym. Obviously, there's a lot of differences there. I only had a few people come to my home because it's my home, it's my space, it's my privacy, and I didn't really enjoy having first of all having to just look around and what are the and make sure it looked okay and it was clean and all of that. But I also liked the professionalism of having a location where I could say, yes, I see clients at this location. So for me, that those differences really were important to help me hone what I wanted, what worked best for me.
Perfect. Yeah, and thank you for also incorporating the apartment that I neglected to include in the conversation.
The Society of Massage Archives invites you to join us for a virtual book club and discussion circle, a monthly 90-minute virtual deep dive into Dr. Patricia Benjamin's book, The Emergence of the Massage Therapy Profession in North America, A History in Archetypes. This isn't your typical book club. It's a conversation where we'll read the emergence chapter by chapter, reflect on the stories, struggles, and triumphs that shaped our profession, and explore how the past informs our current and future circumstances. Discussion circles are moderated by SOMA's Executive Board of Directors, with special guest hosts and Q&A sessions with the author, Dr. Benjamin. Registrants will receive access to the ebook format courtesy of Sutherland Chan School of Massage in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Virtual meetings will be held on the second Monday of each month at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central, 4:30 p.m. Mountain, and 3:30 p.m. Pacific. Visit our social media on Facebook and Instagram, or our website at societyofmassagearchives.org to learn more and get registered today. We'll see you soon.
I wanted to also ask, you mentioned something that I find really interesting. You mentioned that in this profession particularly, we're susceptible to not really understanding our power as contractors versus employees, all of that. It's a huge topic right now. I'm wondering, I hate to bring gender into things, especially if it's unnecessary, kind of a curveball question. Do you feel like it's really, women aren't given as much, they're not expected to really grasp these business. There aren't that, I don't know if disenfranchise is the right word to use, Irene, but do you find that it's just not, women just aren't as empowered when it comes to business? Would you agree with that?
Well, I think across all industries, yes, of course. I think that's the situation. And there are really powerful women coming up and showing if you want to run a business, you can run a business and you can create a difference in the marketplace. But what I've seen is women tend to adopt male tendencies. And again, if it's gender related, they try to match the energy of a male and be assertive and all that stuff. Now, I am assertive. A lot of times people find me, I should say a lot of times, sometimes they find me too direct. And yeah, I am. And so what I learned is, again, that serves me, but it also sometimes backfires, like the client who told me many years later. Even my landlord at the space I'm at now, I was negotiating because this was going to be rent every year. And what could I do with the space? And I couldn't put nails and I wanted to hang a sign, everything I needed to negotiate. Many years later, she told me that I was a tough businesswoman. And okay, I was, and I am, because it was self-preservation. But so I do think women need to, well, they don't need to, but I think they'll go further and be happier in business if, again, they recognize this is a business. As a contractor, especially, don't rely on the person who's contracting you. Probably don't, because they're looking out for their best interest. And in business, negotiation is part of the deal. You're expected to negotiate. I literally just, right before this call, emailed a response to a government entity that I am going to be contracting with on how much money I wanted to get paid, my remuneration. And so it's a negotiation. Of course, I asked for the very highest, whereas even when I answered, she literally said, here's the range. What are you asking for? And it was so interesting to me because I literally in my head was like, who would say less than the top? But
Yep.
some people do because they don't want to appeal greedy. And there's a cultural difference with this, with me and this person, because it's a different cult. Like, so, it was really an interesting little brain challenge I had right there. My first gut, of course, is I'm going to say I'm taking the top. And then I thought, how's she going to interpret that? And then I thought, it doesn't matter how she interprets it. This is business. Yeah. So here's the weird thing in this industry, right? There's more women than men.
Mhm.
And from a business standpoint, the men have it easier
Yeah, sure.
than they tend to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the thing. And I think I'm going to run with this just a little bit, Irene. I think it needs to be said that men, we find ourselves perhaps in the minority in the profession, but that does not mean that the cultural and the societal pressures and advantages or privileges of being a man are not present in your business as a massage therapist. I don't know. Did I make sense with what I just said there? It doesn't
You
get talked
did.
about a lot.
You have privileges, you also have disadvantages. You're a male working with a female, all the sexual worries and things like that, and accusations, and do you need to, there's too much, right? Like, I'm tongue-tied because there's like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. The words you use, the touch, if by accident you might graze, their breast, I mean, like, who even knows? And of course, it's all valid. So, but we have to be so present. Both everybody has to be, no matter their gender, their identification, their whatever. We have to understand that this client who's in our treatment room or therapy room obviously is a human, and we want to respect them and be as careful as possible. And then when we're taking that same concept into a business negotiation, they are a human. They have their experience. So it's a mirror of both in the treatment room and in business. Is the way I like to do business is it is human to human. And we want to come away with both parties, both people feeling really good, not taken advantage of, not, oh gosh, they got the better deal, or I got ripped off because I paid more than what I think I got, in any scenario. So eyes wide open, be the most gracious, respectful person. And I think that goes really far, but don't be afraid to ask for what you want.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like you've ever shied away from being a business person, and it doesn't sound like you've ever been afraid of those
Oh,
negotiations.
I've been afraid. I've been afraid. Oh, yeah. No, and I've taken risks, and some have not worked, but good old mom, what's the worst that can happen?
I
And I
like,
think that's really an important lesson for everybody,
yeah.
because things are scary. And you've all seen the bubble, right? Comfort zone where big things happen. Well, yeah, let's go there.
How has your approach to massage practice and learning evolved over time in the last 35 years?
Mm. I think as an educator, everything I do with clients now, I see through the lens of how can I be even more impactful with my one individual client that I'm working with right there, or in the group setting that I'm working with. And how can I take those lessons and that experience to share with the other providers? So I'm always wearing these double hats, one as a clinician and the other as an educator, because everything I know, when I again got into practice, I wasn't an employee, so I didn't have other people to speak with. I didn't watch other people in clinic. I didn't really know. I just was going with what I felt was right. I had never even received massages as a client. So I didn't have anything to base it on. So I understand there's some people who are like that as well. And then there's also people, of course, who've been in environments and have seen it. But I do know that, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So if somebody can see how I might do an assessment, or somebody can see how I might answer a question, or somebody can hear how I explain what it is that we're doing, when my hands are touching you or whatever, it can be exceptionally valuable and can fast forward their practice. Right. So it's a shortcut. They don't have to figure it out and they don't have to stumble. And if I can provide insight that is valuable to these other practitioners or clinic owners, I want to do that. So that's how my practice has evolved. I have learned how to be even more impactful with the time I spend with clients, because I used to start, and this is this is part of my business coaching. I used to only sell time, just like many providers. The paradigm for massage is selling time. The paradigm for massage is the longer the session, the better. Not so much, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If I have a migraine or my neck hurts or my shoulder isn't able to move the right way, I want it done in 10 minutes, not 2 hours. And I'll plug my book. In my book, I do have a image in there, and I talk about a continuum of care. And I've observed, and tell me if you think this is not accurate, any of the people listening. I believe that massage and all of our therapies, problem solving to pampering, and it's a continuum, and it serves a purpose all the way in between. So some people come for a problem, right? My neck is stiff, I can't turn. That's a problem they come to us to solve. Pampering, it's my wedding, it's my birthday, I've just had a really stressful day. The longer the session in pampering, the more appreciated. The shorter the session in problem solving, the more appreciated. So you could charge 200 for a problem solving session, 200 for a pampering session. This could be 15 minutes, this could be 2 hours or 4 hours or whatever, right? So that has really changed as I've been evolving in my practice, understanding the value of selling value, not selling time. And that's where revenue it becomes exponentially increased in a practice when you learn that there's a way to sell your services that is not time-based. Also understanding that I didn't have to talk about it in here. This is my 30 years. This is everything we're talking about, but more. But I wasn't open to the public. This is terms I've developed. Open to the public practice. The more the merrier. Let's see how full we can. We have 3 treatment rooms. Let's fill these rooms, right? Let's get 5 hours, 6 hours in each room every single day. That was our goal. Walk-ins welcome was the sign on our door.
Yeah.
When did you want to get in? Sure, let's get you in today at 3. I call that an open to the public practice. It's perfect. It worked. It was a volume-based business. Over the years, I've transitioned to what I now call a precise private practice. I've actually trademarked, copyrighted that name, and I've donated it back to you all. If you want to use precise private practice in your marketing, you're welcome to use that. And that concept is only accepting in clients by referral or request. Only accepting clients who you know for sure you feel confident you can support. Only offering the work that you want to provide. Charging the precise fees that you want. So it's a different mindset for sure.
Oh.
And it's scary again. Why? Because you're going to be turning away people. But by doing so, it opens up a tremendous opportunity to really serve fewer people, but at a higher level. And then guess what? All the stress of things like, oh gosh, I hope they liked the session. Are they going to leave a bad review? Like that goes out the window because nobody's going to leave a bad review because you handpicked who comes in and you know exactly the precise reason they're there for the precise services, and they've already agreed. They know that it's just there's less room for error. So it's fewer people. It's selling results. It's selling value in a precise private practice. Whereas an open to the public, yes, of course, you're still delivering value and you're still attentive and serving at your highest level, but it's harder in a volume-based business because volume is the goal.
Yeah.
Versus value. So those are a few of the transitions. And then again, my active modulation therapy, that's transitioned from a scientific background. It used to be called active myofascial therapy. That was when we thought mechanically we could mush and smush the fascia and stretch it. And so it was a tissue-based name. Well, now modulation is the word. Why? Because again, we know that it's the brain, it's the neurological system that's creating the releases and the changes in the tissue. So the understanding of the mechanism of why what we're doing is effective and impactful has changed over the years. And so the term modulation and the way we teach the method has has evolved. Again, so I have two methods: active modulation therapy, which is the rehabilitation method that incorporates movement as therapeutic exercise movements, in addition to the manual therapy. And then I have Diamond active massage, which is the manual piece, although in both of them, the client is actively involved, actively moving under the direction of the therapist. The transition of my practice was basic, traditional, passively received massage. And now I don't even consider myself a massage therapist now. And the reason I say that is not because I have anything against massage. Massage is fabulous. And we have massage therapists at our clinic. It's because for me personally, again, I'm a problem solver. I work with migraine and neck pain and back pain, and people want fast, effective, efficient results. And the way we do that is when the client is actively involved during the session, where we co-create the results. And that only happens with an active participant, not a passive participant. So my work, I can, what used to maybe take 2-hour sessions or 90-minute sessions, I can do in 10 or 15 minutes, or 30 minutes, or maybe an hour-ish, but it's not time-based anymore. It's been a journey, and I love the way my practice is now. I see fewer people. We get amazing results. I get paid amazingly. They're happy. I'm happy. Like, life's pretty good.
That can't be beat, right?
Can't be beat.
I kind of said it earlier. Again, what I'm hearing, how intentional you are, and especially with these words. And again, I can't help but love people who are intentional with the words and the language that they use.
Mm.
And you're right, it is a total paradigm shift to change from charging for time versus value. I love that. Yeah.
That's why I say I'm controversial, because I'll throw another one in there. Not to segue off, but let me just say this. I also guarantee my results with my clients. I encourage every therapist to do the same. It's literally, people are like, you can't do that. That's unethical. I say, no, it's the most ethical, I believe. If I'm paying $100, $200, $500, $30, and you can guarantee me an outcome, I believe that's the most ethical thing you can do, because then you're being we're going to go create the results. It's not like I'm coming to you to, fix me, but you're literally going to have your money on the line, whether you get paid or not. Or, there's different ways of structuring a guarantee, but then you're not just booking anybody just to get paid. You're only booking, this again gets back to the precise private practice. You're selective in who you bring in, because your reputation is on the line. Maybe your pay is on the line. And I believe that's the most ethical thing a practice can do. And it's being done in more healthcare environments. There are LASIK eye surgeons doing it. There are fertility clinics doing it. There's a hospital that does, surgical implants that are doing it. So it's not in the United States. It's legal as far as I know. I've done research on that, and I truly believe if you are, here, you have to put yourself on the line. If you are as good as you think you are, and good meaning impactful, supportive, attentive, effective, efficient, why not do a guarantee?
Challenge, challenge, challenge.
Will you do that, Kirby?
You know what? I might start. Yeah, I might. Yeah.
And from a business coaching perspective, right? You're in your city. Let's just say, I don't know what you charge. Let's say you charge $100, but you guarantee it, versus therapist over here who charges $100, no guarantee. Who's the client going to go to? I mean, it's just a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And yes, it's scary, but so what? Then be better, become more proficient,
Yeah.
assess better, more effectively, screen your clients appropriately, make sure. And yes, this is private practice. If you're in a medical office where you're mandated to take anybody and everybody, it's a completely different environment. But if you have the luxury of being able to handpick and screen clients, I think it works to your advantage.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? Work a little harder if you have to. Yeah, challenge yourself to be better and grow. Let me ask you, Irene, if it's all right to kind of shift. You mentioned education earlier in your last answer, and we can do this lightning round. Have you ever worked for a school, like as an instructor?
I was not employed at a school, but I've contributed content, and I still contribute content to schools.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
And it looks like from the resume, it looks like you've been doing CEs since like 2008. Can you talk briefly maybe about how that kind of started, like what the drive was there? And also quite a bit of publication. You've been sharing with us the book. How did you get started writing? Did one of those two lead into each other? Did they kind of happen in
Mm.
tandem like other parts of
Mm.
your story?
So again, the work that I developed, active modulation therapy, people would say, oh, I want to learn that. How are you able to get results so quick? So I started teaching for AMTA and then privately teaching my own classes. And I just taught. And people would say, well, do you give CEs? And no, but you'll learn a whole lot and you'll be really much more impactful with your clients. And so people would take my classes because they wanted the knowledge, not because they needed some more continuing aid credit. And then I was teaching for the World Massage Festival. I think I've taught for 13 of their conferences. And at one point, though, they started requiring that we had to be approved by the national NCB TMB.
Yeah.
And so I went down that route. Although I fought it for a long time because again, I wanted students who wanted to learn, not who just was going to do it for the credit.
Yeah.
But I became an approved provider, and I love my number because I'm not very good at remembering numbers, but I can remember this one. It's 1,100. So that was very symbolic and very fun to get that number as an approved provider for them. So so that, and again, people like that I can break down concepts that are complex into simpler ways to learn. And even my approach, my therapy approach, a lot of people compare it to ART, active release therapy, which has, I don't even know, 72 protocols and this and that. We have five. Like it's so simple and it's easy and it's more, I think, effective. So everything I do, I try to simplify and simplify. And Einstein once said, keep simplifying. And when you think you've gotten to the as simple as it can be, simplify even more. So that's what I do. And in practice management, same thing. We just simple. Stop complicating things. So I started teaching and writing, and I had again, my ideas are different, and I recognize that, and they're effective. So I wanted to start sharing them more. So I started coaching and consulting, and then the publications would ask me, to write articles. I think I probably pitched at the very beginning to some of the publications. And I'm very involved in the massage profession, but I'm also involved in the physical therapy and other fitness professions as well. So I've written for different publications and been featured in different magazines and on events and things like that. The book, again, was one of those on your list of things to do, but how am I going to do it? And I ended up paying an organization to help me write my book
Mm.
because I knew it would make me do it. And I also knew I could just pay one rate and they'd help me with the cover and they'd help me get it up on Amazon and do the book launch and all of that. And for me, over the years, one of your questions, Kirby, is how's my business transitioned? I've started over the years, and my husband's helped me do this. I used to be super, super cheap, and I didn't want to spend money on anything
Sure.
because I can do it myself.
Right.
It's fine. And I started realizing, no, I want to pay for shortcuts. I want to pay. I had the money. Why not help me help others quicker, faster, more efficient? And so, again, that was a big investment. I don't remember how much it was, but it was, like I want to say $14,000 or something like that to help me get my book done. But I met with the writers and they would go through it. This is before AI. So, they'd edit it and they'd change it and we'd come back and we'd talk about it. And what about this and format it that way? But this part doesn't, so all of that helped me get the book out. And again, over the years, so many therapists and practice owners asked me, how did you do it? How did you do that? What about this? So I thought, let's just put it in this book. And the response has been phenomenal. People love it. They really appreciate me breaking things down and painting a picture of a different way to practice.
Yeah.
It's all based on that precise private practice concept, which I was never taught was a thing. Like, what do you mean you don't have to take every client? What do you mean you don't have to work with clients you don't really like? What do you mean you don't have to do 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes? And, nobody ever said that was okay. And I give people permission to do that. And they really appreciate that. And my big vision is, especially with families, people who have kids, for the first bunch of years, I was around, but I was working a lot. And I realized, when Grace at the time would be little and where are you going, mommy? You're going to work again? with tears in her eyes. And so my mission is really to help families, parents, caregivers be home with their kids, have time with their kids, do the pickups and go to the events and things like that. They can only do that when they have a precise private practice. If you're running a volume business, you feel like you have to be there all the time.
Some radical ideas you've got there, Irene.
And the people who make that transition are so appreciative. So for anyone listening, if you're feeling like, oh, well, you couldn't do that, any of the ideas we discussed here, I don't know. Ask yourself, really? Just because your gut says that your gut response is that, let's take a moment and really reflect on that and think maybe you could. Let's try it a little bit. What's the worst that can happen?
I find not many people are comfortable putting themselves in an uncomfortable and really sitting with that and exploring why is your gut and is that really true? Challenge yourself like that.
Yeah. Exactly. In my ethical fee increase program, which is a great program, by the way, anybody wants to raise their fees, but we talk about like the uncovering the limiting beliefs because that's such a big piece of it. And we all have them. I have them still. We all have them to different degrees and limiting us in certain areas. And you might be an amazing athlete and you don't have any limitations going down black diamond ski runs, but in business you might have a limitation of, I can't offer a guarantee. So really getting uncomfortable, I believe, helps us, first of all, grow as humans, as people. And it also deepens our understanding of who we are and what are true beliefs, not societal beliefs or educational beliefs that were put on us. And let's really start to understand what is our belief and how do we then take that and use that to inform our vision.
Excellent. How long did the book take you to?
Ah.
How long was
3 years, I say 30 years of living and 3 years to write.
that?
And it only took 3 years to write because I dragged my feet. And I dragged my feet and I couldn't figure it out. Why am I not finishing? Why am I not Like I'd be up to 4 in the morning on some days. I'd be on a roll. I'm a night person. And so, the house would go dark, kids would be asleep. I'd be like, and I'd look up and go, how's it 2 o'clock?
Yeah.
So it's not that I was not being productive, but I wouldn't respond to the editors. I'd take a little time. And I was like, why? And then finally, I realized it's because I, again, perpetual learner. What if I change something? What if I have a new aha? What if I want to add that? And somebody, and I can't remember whoever you were, it was one of the authors in the profession. Thank you for saying this to me. You said there's always edition number 2. There's always more editions. And I was like, okay, I can be done with the book. And yes, I might want to revamp it at some point or add some things to it, but now it's done. The quicker I can be done, the quicker people can start benefiting from it.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. And it came out in 2023, right?
I think so. It's a number thing. I think so. I couldn't. I am going to do a little book club thing, and I couldn't remember even how many pages. 222 pages.
All right.
And
Yeah.
it was supposed to be 150 to begin with. But yeah, it's got all the ideas. If people like what I've been sharing here, I'd be happy to have them get a copy. A lot of people are saying, like, why didn't I get this when I was going through school? And I am making it available to schools. So if there's any schools listening, and I do have curriculum that I'm donating. So again, I'm here now. How many more years have I got? Maybe 10 in the profession or so. I'm not dying soon, but I am going to slow down a little bit. I am going to sell the brick and mortar. I am going to travel more and teach more. I also am looking for teachers who want to teach either the Diamond active massage or active modulation therapy. So I'm going to start teaching more teachers to keep this going. And then, again, I want to leave a legacy, not for my own ego's sake, although of course that's fun, but because I do truly believe, and I've seen how valuable this type of work is, the active client work, and it can simplify people's lives, reduce their injuries, get faster results for their clients, and then they can charge more for that too.
I think that's really great, especially helping out the schools and curriculum donation.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank
Yes. Okay. I want to share one last thing with you. Speaking of curriculum.
Sure.
So part of my negotiations of this compensation that I was discussing earlier, I'm very, very excited and blessed and proud to announce that I've been accepted as a curriculum designer and educator for an entire country's Western massage program.
Wow.
And I'll be traveling in the spring there, and I'll be there for a month teaching, and then again teaching the teachers. And it's the country of Bhutan.
Okay.
If you don't know much about Bhutan, you should Google them. I've been fascinated with this country for as long as I've known about them. They have a happiness quota, a national happiness index that they track for their people. They're not only carbon neutral, they're carbon negative. There's so many really cool things about them. They're actually creating a wellness city. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And so I'm working with them with their Western massage curriculum to train therapists, and it'll include diamond active massage. So that's pretty fun.
Yeah, how awesome is that?
I know. So, how did it come about? I got uncomfortable, right? I sent emails and I made big moves. And that's why people who are listening to this, if you have big visions and big goals, you can make big moves as well.
That's the key.
Yeah.
You have time for some closing thoughts then, Irene? Tell me, when you look back, what are you most proud of in your massage career?
The radical ideas that we discussed already, and not just doing status quo and same old, and being okay with taking a chance and saying, hey, I mean, I started a membership in my clinic. People didn't have memberships. They had gym memberships, but they certainly didn't have massage memberships or therapy memberships, but I recognized that this was a way to even that concept. I mean, even that concept, I have a different concept on the concept, which is like you can have a discount membership, which is what 99.9% of the clinics have, right? The practices are doing discount memberships. Members get a discount. Well, I come on and I go, well, why not do a luxury membership? Why not do a high-end membership? So you're not getting discounts, you're getting additional benefits. And so even these concepts, I'm so proud that I was not afraid to try that and see. And then they worked. And during the dot-com crash, which many of your listeners don't even know about, that was what was that? In the 2006 through whatever, 2012, businesses were going under, and our membership is what kept us consistent. That's what kept the money coming in. It's what kept our clients happy and kept us afloat. So there's so many things I'm proud of. I mean, what I just shared with you about education for Bhutan and the active modulation therapy, and sharing with practice owners that they can create their vision, their dream practice. They don't have to struggle. There's so much money out there to be made in every city, in every population. And I'll say this because a lot of times people they get confused with my message. I'm all about charging premium fees for premium providers. If you're not very skilled yet, just keep practicing. See as many clients as you can. Get your hands on as many people as you can. Really get experience, understanding under your belt. And when you're proficient and competent in your clinical skills and ability to assess and deal with clients and all of that, charge premium fees. There are people in every city who have money. So you're talking again, maybe that 1%, maybe 2%, 5%, whatever. Your practice is built on that, so you have the financial security and stability to then donate or scholarship or volunteer, whatever you want to do. So I'm so proud of the practitioners who get this concept and start implementing it into their practice. I started the same way. I thought I wanted to work also with inner city youth. Well, then I realized quickly they don't have money. Who's going to pay? Well, so then we had to get grants and scholarships and things like that, or sponsorships. And so being able to have your own business be financially stable, so then you can donate and give back to your community, is phenomenal. I also have a marketing approach that I license to other practices, service-based businesses, which we call We Give Back. So we donate every single month. Our little practice, we donate over $2,500 worth of services every single month. And we've been doing this since 2003.
Wow.
I'm really proud of that. And I license that concept to other practices, one per city, because it is so effective, and we can't dilute the effectiveness if we have more than one person in a certain geographical area. But that has allowed practitioners to give back and attract their dream clients and generate revenue. So I don't know, I could go on. I don't have a problem being proud of my work because it's taken a lot of work and effort. And I'm happy now to share it, really to get it out to more people because it is pretty dang cool stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I love people again who aren't afraid to say thank you. Thank you. I'm proud of it. It took a lot to get here.
Yeah. And I've learned, I've stood on the shoulders of giants. I've watched and I've learned and I keep learning like we talked about earlier. And
Um,
here's a little tip I just want to tie in. When I have therapists who come to me who want to work at our clinic, I'll literally say, "Are you a good practitioner?" And if they're like, "Well, yeah, I'm pretty good," versus, "Yes, I'm good." Who do you think I'm going to hire? Because again, the client picks up on that. We don't want to go to a knee surgeon who, well, I think I can help you with your knee
versus a guarantee. Yeah,
versus a guarantee.
right.
Mhm. Right. And it does take confidence to offer a guarantee. There's no doubt about it. And it takes experience because you need to know what you can guarantee.
For sure. Yeah, you don't
Mhm.
want to oversell and not be able to come up with it.
Mhm.
All right, so maybe kind of tying from that, you mentioned standing on shoulders of others. Is there anyone in massage therapy history that's now deceased that you would maybe want to have a conversation with, Irene?
Well, that's interesting. I would think it'd be kind of fun to talk to Milton Traeger since I mentioned Milton Traeger and just to know how he even connected with my parents way back when. Yeah. And then, Bonnie Pruden.
Mm.
Because a lot of my work and Ida Rolf, a lot of my work is similar to what they came up with. Again, just by sort of instinct of what was working with me, the movements and the trigger points and the things like that. I've always taught that the client should be active. We've called it, I say the difference between an order taker and an advisor, right? An order taker therapist, the client says, oh, I want you to start with my neck hurts, and then if we have time, can you work on my feet? Well, that's an order taker. Nothing wrong with it. I prefer therapists to be advisors. Those
Yes,
are my terms.
sure.
Yeah.
It again, another paradigm shift though, right? An order taker versus an advisor.
I wish somebody would, I hated working on feet. I still hate working with people's feet. But if the client says, can you work on my feet? I used to think, yeah, I guess I have to. And now I'm like, nah, I'll send you to somebody to work with your feet. No, I mean, it's like and also here's a piece about the advisor is sometimes our clients are clinicians. They know what's going on. So of course their advice and their suggestions of how to structure the session makes a whole lot more sense if we listen to them and consider that as part of how we're structuring the session. But for clients who walk in who say, I've got this knot between my shoulder blades, and the therapist who takes the order and works on that knot is not necessarily addressing the underlying causes to help that client long term. So it's symptom relief, which is fine. People need symptom relief. They pay for symptom relief. That's what they're coming in thinking. But really, what we want to do is maybe give them a long-term change. So if we work on some other areas, help them address, opening up through the chest and all that other good stuff, then and re-educating the nervous system and controlling and strengthening and stabilizing and all the other parts of it, which is what a well-rounded therapist who does movement can do, then the client leaves with a better outcome, a better value, a longer lasting result because the therapist did not take orders and only work on the thing that was screaming the loudest for the client. So they used their clinical decision making, hopefully, to structure the session to be the most impactful, not just taking the order. And again, even that takes confidence because the therapist has to say, I hear your shoulder is hurting you. I hear that you've got that knot between your shoulder blades. And this is how I'd like to address it. Does that work for you? Right? It's co-creating. You're having a conversation. And hopefully the client trusts you and believes that you do have that expertise and says, yes, that sounds great. Let's do it. That's a radical difference of opinion. That's so many. And here's the difference again when we said problem solving and pampering. Pampering is service more. It is a service provider. Whereas I see problem solving as a therapist, a clinician, a provider, whatever the words are. And so in a service-based business, we do cater to the client's wishes. In a problem-solving paradigm, hopefully they're coming to us for our knowledge and our expertise.
Right. Kind of on the flip side of that question about a conversation, is there anyone that you can think of off the top of your head, Irene, that we should put in your hot seat next time?
Have you interviewed Vivian Madison Mahoney?
No, and I'm not sure that name is even ringing a bell with me, Irene. Tell me just a little
She's,
bit more.
I think she's, mid 80s now. And she was somebody who I had heard about because again, I was doing insurance billing, and she had a manual on how to bill insurance for therapists. And she was my very first interview that I did as a business coach. And I brought her in and we had a conversation. She's been involved forever. She still sells her book. She's very knowledgeable about insurance billing, and she can tell you the best stories.
I love
And she knew all the people coming up, and she's been involved in all the bits and pieces. So I think she'd be really phenomenal.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that name. We'll see if we can't track her down.
Yeah.
All right. Final things. How could listeners get in touch with you or learn more about you, follow the work that you're up to?
Well, they can certainly buy my book on Amazon, or on my website. They can go to my website, irenediamond.com, and thediamondmethod.com, thediamondmethod.com. I'm also on Facebook, a little bit on Instagram.
Out there. Just
I'm
find
out there. I'm out there. And if you have a school, again, reach out to me. And if you have a country, reach out to me. Just reach out to me. And
Yeah.
I have plenty of time. I'm pretty available because again, I don't work that hard. I mean, I work hours, of course, but I make my own schedule. So we can make things happen pretty quick if you'd like to have me come teach or do it virtual, which I do a lot. And I also, again, if you're an individual practitioner and you're ready for really big things, let's do it.
Don't be afraid. Be confident.
Yeah.
Lean more into that. All right. Final thing, Irene. Is there anything else you'd like to share that we didn't cover? The floor is all yours.
Well, we covered a lot, and I'm thankful for that. I know we've bounced around. I just really, again, I'll just encourage therapists to have a vision of what you want. Take some time. What do you want your practice to look like? What hours do you want to work? Who do you want to work with? What type of services do you want to offer? What do you want to charge? Once you have that clear vision, then we can put the pieces together. But too many therapists are reactive, not proactive. They're responding to what's thrown at them rather than creating it. And that's the biggest lesson, gift I can impart over my many years of experience. I've realized there are times where I just let the tides push me, and that's fine. But when I've decided to write my book, to contact this country, to go out and ask of publications if I can, pitch an article to them, that's when things have started to happen. So if you want to make big things happen, you can. You need to see the vision and then put steps in place.
Yeah. Amen.
Hallelujah.
And no better time to start than right now. It's a new year, Irene.
Yeah.
This is a great start to season 2026 for us. Well, I want to thank you, Irene, so much for your time being here with us at the Hands of History podcast. Yeah, this has went in different directions than I thought it would be, but yeah, again, I think this is a great start to a happy new year.
Excellent. All right, Kirby. Thank you so much for the honor. I'm very appreciative of it.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider donating to the Society of Massage Archives so we can continue to bring you this episode and other resources to fulfill our mission of preserving and integrating the historical knowledge of massage therapy's professional advocacy and traditional techniques to guide and enrich our contemporary practices. Thank you. You've been listening to the Hands of History podcast, a production of the Society of Massage Archives. You can learn more about the Society at societyofmassagearchives.org. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. Do you know someone whose hands that help shape practice of massage? If you or someone you know who may be a great guest for future episodes of this podcast, please email the Society at societyofmassagearchives@gmail.com. Society of Massage Archives, all one word, @gmail.com.